the current American administration has a bone to pick with South Africa for their own ideology of trying to find oppressed, endangered white people. It is divorced from fact, it is divorced from reason, it is divorced from sense and sensibility. All of this white genocide farm murder stuff via Elon Musk and Twitter and Donald Trump and the rest would have happened whether we were soft and polite on Iran or not. It would have happened. Our continuing relationship with China and Russia is the same thing, right? If you follow that utilitarian argument that we just need to be nice to America at all costs, then we should have cut off relationships with America's enemies, China and Russia. But that would have had awful economic consequences for us, probably larger at this point than trying to play nice and soft and polite and limp with everybody, okay? Because the American economic relations that we have accounts for in the under 10 to a little over 10% of our total economic output. It's the EU plus China and all the other places that account for far more of that. And South Africa's broad, we don't judge approach has been beneficial to our ability to survive the shockwaves of other countries changing their opinions on us, right? The Americans and Trump's America has shown that whether we took Israel to the International Court of Justice on behalf of Palestinians or not, they would have come for us because of their desperate need to have oppressed white people, for their narrative of white people have like under assault all around the world. They would have come for us anyway, whether we cut off our relations with Iran or not. They would have come for us anyway, whether we cut off our politeness with Russia and China or not. So the moral question of whether or not to reject Iran is one section, but the other section of whether or not it's better for our economy and our prospects as a country to reject Iran to try and placate America is absurd, because America cannot be satisfied. We cannot satisfy America to the point where anything is enough for them. Their current new diplomatic representative, ambassador to South Africa, was anti-ANC during apartheid. During apartheid. Maybe I can understand being anti-ANC now, but during apartheid, he was anti the African National Congress. But now the question becomes, what is the consequence going to be for South Africa now that there's this war? And I think very little, because it's not about, our relationship with America has never been about Iran. It's never been about Iran. They can say, they can pretend that it is, but it's never been about Iran. In the same way that this attack that the Americans has done is not about Iran being an imminent threat to them, because it's not an imminent threat to the United States of America. It's not even an imminent threat to Israel, who's got the Iron Dome and the technological military defense capabilities to survive this enormous attack upon them with no worries and barely a blink, right? Over 500,000 people have already been killed in Iran. Over 200 of them as civilians. Over 150 of them innocent primary school age girls who were just in their classrooms at school. In the whole rest of the American influence region of the Middle East, there have been virtually next to no deaths. There have been like less than 50 deaths. So we couldn't have placated America through a different decision over Iran. And right now, we're calling for peace, and we're calling that maybe countries shouldn't be able to go and unilaterally kill each other's leaders, which I think is a reasonable position around the world. It's good for the world's geopolitics. And again, Ayatollah, deeply evil man who led a deeply evil regime. But one killing the Ayatollah does not stop the deeply evil regime. They're still in power. They're going to be in power. Even if they have a wobbly moment, they've got all the military capacity to already suppress mass protests. Two, killing the Ayatollah has caused and is going to cause devastating fallout across the region, the consequences of which will fall on Arab members of Muslim countries, not Israelis, not Americans, and not the rest. And South Africa will continue to play soft on all of this, and America will not care what we have to say about Iran whatsoever. America cares way more about whether or not we have a white genocide or farm murders in this country, as like targeted, like, you know, the whole spiel about farm murders. That's what they care about, and it suits their agenda, and they can't be reasoned with.
I hear what you're saying. I do believe that we constantly play a seesaw balancing act with talking to and engaging with different powers, like with Putin. I think a couple of years ago we sort of ummed and ahed about whether we would arrest him if he came here under, you know, the International Criminal Court running a arrest warrant out of him. However, I think when it comes to the ANC, there is this history, and as has been brought up many times in the conversation in the last few days, we have engaged with them either outside of sort of governmental remits, like with that SANDF general, I think, who went to Tehran. Yeah, went to Tehran
and was condemned by the presidency
and made a whole bunch of points outside of the remit of DOCO, and, you know, the Simonstown naval exercise also. But so the ANC specifically has not really done much to distance itself from Iran or any of the actions of the Iranian regime, but it hasn't done enough, in my opinion. And that does just fundamentally make us a target, and that also, to me, doesn't sound or doesn't fit in with that sort of we listen, we don't judge policy. They have gone beyond what I would see as reasonable in terms of their actions towards Iran, and they are making big statements against other countries, but not as well as Iran. And that's not to say that the Iranian government is funding the ANC and all that conspiracy stuff. There's no evidence as of now that it exists. However, I don't think that the ANC specifically has done enough to distance itself from that engagement. And I think that is just fundamentally going to bring us heat. And I personally don't think we should, I completely agree with you, we shouldn't cozy up to America and bend to their will, because that is just, as has been evidenced by Trump, the way to get into further trouble. But I do think the ANC should be doing more to distance themselves from Iran if they do claim to have this policy of we listen, we don't judge. Because fundamentally, we are living in a post-COVID world where fascism is on the rise and the world is becoming more binary. We are falling back into sort of Cold War politics of us and them mentalities with all countries. As a country as friendly and non-threatening as Canada, Mark Carney came out and said all that stuff. Carney said all that stuff about being a more mature politic, right? About working with people based on the things that you can build rather than just working purely on ideology. And I think South Africa needs to take but we need to recommit to that idea of we're going to be practical about this and we are going to be consistent about this, because this will they, won't they, in between half-baked policy, I feel, is damaging us. And it is going to be so easy for some despotic leader like Trump to go, they're anti-Israel and they aren't condemning Iran, so we have to go smite them. So it's not to say that we need to bend to their will, but I think we need to be smarter and more calculated in the way that we interact with the world.
But I do think they're going to do it anyway.
They are going to do it anyway, but it does like irritate the bear, right?
Sure.
No.
But they're going to do it anyway, because there are no farm murders and there's no there are no targeted, calculated, like serious attacks on farmers in a way that is racist and targeting in this country by a grand conspiracy, and there's no white genocide.
Yeah, but that's just the output that they've chosen, right? As you said before, the reason why they're coming after South Africa is partly because it's a convenient narrative, but also because of the ICJ case, because of Israel. Yeah. Like, it's not like the white genocide thing is the symptom, but the cause is something different. And I think that cause we are not doing enough, or the ANC specifically, because they're in charge of DOCO and they have defined our public international relations policy. They are not doing enough to position us in a better position in the global space, in my opinion.
Maybe, but listen, we are dealing with hypocritical, self-interested foreign powers.
Totally, but we have to live within that world.
I know. Yeah. And the way that they've chosen to do it, except in the case of Gaza, is we listen, we don't judge. And that has broadly yielded a country with a lot of economic and socio-political relationships where we never become the main character.
But I think we need to recommit. We need to go even further in that.
But then you just alienate everybody.
No,
we prefer that. Like if we're having not the moral, the utilitarian framework.
Yes.
Should we reject all of China?
No,
should we
that's
reject
what I'm saying.
all of Russia?
That's what I'm saying.
But all of these major powers are committing atrocities. They're all committing atrocities, and I'm not equivocating them. I'm not saying that they're all the same. But they're also all. The reason why this is so challenging is that they're fundamentally hypocritical. The American government can criticize us for being close with China and Russia, but also the American government is bending over backwards for Putin, allowing him to continue. No, for Putin, for Russia, to continue Putin's invasion of Ukraine. They hold 20% of Ukrainian land in absolute rejection of any international norms of honoring borders and territorial disputes. The American government, on the one hand, can criticize us for being close with Russia and that, but in the very same breath, Trump is sucking up to Putin explicitly. The American government can criticize us for being close to China, and they've tried to squabble with China economically, but at the very same time, the American government is placating China because of the international interwoven economic relationship that the two have. So it's not as easy as you can't satisfy this level of hypocrisy.
I'm not saying we're satisfied. I'm not arguing for pro-American positions. The last time we spoke about Iran, people did claim that I was.
I know,
but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to look at the world as it is, as you've identified. It is a fast becoming a fascist playground in the international landscape of hypocrisy and people that are not fact-based and people who are just kind of working on vibes, and that is bad. That is very bad. And but we have to live within that reality. And that's not to say that we are going to bend to American will or anything like that. But if Iran is coming out and acting terribly, we should be able to say that, and we should be able to come out and condemn it, which and by we I mean the ANC, JOCO, have not done. And that is not playing. That is not listen. We don't judge. Yes. Enough for me. Yes, I think we should be far more clear and unambiguous about this kind of stuff, instead of going, oh yeah, Iran's going to come and do the naval warship thing, but they're not going to be involved. Like the whole playing both sides thing is very different to listen, we don't judge.
Yes, I agree.
And doing little interactions in the way that we've been doing in an ambiguous nature in a world where people are hypocritical and unpredictable. We should be more calculated in the way that we're doing it than we currently are. I don't feel like South Africa is currently doing itself any favors by going on the sort of ambiguous course that we're currently stepping on, basically.
What's interesting to think about is I don't know what the consequences of us rejecting Iran would be. I don't know what Iran's instrumental value to South Africa is.
Well, oil,
No, not directly. The vast majority of our oil goes through international markets. It's not direct sale from Iranian producers at all. Like, I don't know what the instrumental value of Iran to us in the modern era truly is. I understand what it was during apartheid and the fight against apartheid, but I don't understand what it is now.
It's not China.
Exactly. And again, there is no evidence. And the way that we work in the world is evidence and fact and things that happen. There's no evidence that South Africa did the ICJ case on Iran's funding. We have debunked this so many times. That's a Justice Department budget that clearly was spent. It's nothing else. And we did the right thing there. And that's why I think this is a complicated discussion, because there's a moral and there is a utilitarian. Utilitarian mean, how do we do the pros and the cons, the balances, to try and figure out the best outcome for us as a country. And I think we could very, very, very easily condemn Iran without suffering any significant consequences to us for the way that the Iranian government has oppressed its people. I think we should. Yeah, I think we should. I don't think we have a utilitarian benefit to cost to doing that. But we should also condemn the world's largest superpower for unilaterally bombing innocents, attacking, kidnapping, and murdering the leaders of other countries, while also being able to say that Ayatollah was deeply evil and we regret that Ayatollah, and also being able to say killing that Ayatollah makes the world less safe and is going to cause the death of many people and the destruction of many more people's lives. And so therefore it is a reckless, unnecessary, awful act that has flipped the Middle East upside down, a place which is never peaceful and a place which is always on the edge of serious destruction for all of its people, and seemingly with no plan after the bombings. Just because Israel said so.
But I completely agree, and that's essentially what I'm arguing for as well. I mean, if we and again, we being the ANC, JOCO, whatever,
South Africa dominated by
South Africa on the world stage, if we can go out and condemn the Maduro kidnapping, which we should, he's not a good guy, but again, you can't just usurp democracy like that. Exact same way you condemn the killing of the Ayatollah, because you, again, can't just go murder leaders. But we can also go, that regime is horrendous, and we should criticize that as well. And that's what I mean by clarity. I think that's the crux of what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. Like, we sort of live in the gray area, and I think in a world as binary and intense as the one we are currently living in, we need to be more clear and have more clarity. But that doesn't necessarily mean cozying up to the American position.
I know, but I really believe that if we condemned Iran right now, it would not change the way America treats us. I believe that at a core level.
So we should just do it then. Like, we should just do it, yeah.
Morally, we should
yes,
just.
But not for practical reasons.
Totally.
Yeah.
But we should absolutely condemn American and Russian aggression. We should condemn all of this. Russian aggression has caused over 1 million people to be killed in the last 3 or 4 years. I don't care what side you sit on with Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny because South Africa sometimes has justified main character syndrome, and sometimes we know that it's not about us and we can stay away from the spotlight. And I think on some level our government is just trying to make sure that we are not caught in unnecessary crosshairs this time. And to be clear, I don't think that if we don't condemn Iran, that will make our relationship with the US worse either. I think it's stupid. I think the relationship is stupid. I think US action towards us is irrational and stupid and uncaring and dismissive of fact-based reality. But that's kind of who their president is and what their administration is right now. So I still feel like I've only told you 1/10 of what you need to know about this situation. Yeah. But we look forward to your comments. We look forward to your WhatsApps. I'm sure this conversation will continue. But now I want to do that other thing that South Africans love to do, which is to celebrate South Africans absolutely rocking on the world stage with somebody who I was lucky enough to go to university with and knows a friend, Brindy Kreft, who this weekend did something really absolutely jaw-dropping and set a world record. Let's talk to Brindy and her co-paddler. I'm sure she'll tell me the technical word for that now.
Paddling the waters, not paddling in Sea Point.
Yes, real, not paddle.
Yeah.
So South Africans, we're rock stars, I'm sure you've noticed, and another South African rock starred so hard this weekend that she and her paddling partner, they can tell me if I got the technical terms for all of this wrong, broke a world record this weekend. For South Africans who don't know, the Thames River is a pretty big deal. It's probably the biggest and most influential river in a variety of ways in the UK. It goes through the capital of England, London, and I did not know this, but it's like 200, I think, kilometers long, and people sometimes try to traverse the whole of it. And a friend of mine from university named Brindy Kreft, who's also a phenomenal debater and did very well debating also, has gone over and done higher education studies at Oxford University, amongst other places, in the last few years in the UK. And Brindy's always been a water sports superstar. And so I was delighted yesterday to get back from my trip to the Cederberg, open my Instagram and discover that my friend Brindy has broken a world record, and not just by a little, by like hours, like over an hour, with her paddling partner, Joe Peterson. They both join me now. Hey, Brindy!
Hey Dan,
this is so, I know, this is so fun. We're actually doing this for real this time. And hey Joe, nice to meet you.
Hey Dan, nice to meet you.
So you guys are both, is it kayakers, is it paddlers? I know it's not stand-up paddleboarding. Describe what you guys do in terms that us lay people down here can understand. Joe, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so we're technically kayakers. So that's when you're sitting down, you have a two-sided blade, and we're in a K2 as well, so that's the double.
The double what?
A double kayak.
Okay, cool.
So I'll be in the front and Brindy behind me following along.
And what kind of racing do you guys do? Is it usually time trial? Are you facing people who are in the water next to you? Is it short distance? Is it long distance?
It's a variety. I think we Brindy and I together focus more on like the ultra distances, so they tend to be more time trial focused, but we've lots of people doing them kind of at the same time. But then I think both our specialities are more marathon racing, so that's over about 2 hours, where there'll be lots of people on the same start line, but Brindy does a bit more as well.
And Brindy, you were just talking smack apparently. You guys were joking about going for a paddle on the Thames River, which I think is 200 kilometers long, or is it 200 miles? I know the British have the funny measuring system that side.
Yeah, well, I still get confused whenever race distances are given to me in miles. I literally just can't compute it. So the actual, the whole River Thames is longer than 200 kilometers, but the navigable Thames that you're able to paddle down in a kayak is just under 200 kilometers tragically. So I think it was 198.7 when I have on my Garmin, which is slightly torturous. We were talking about rounding it up by like doing a loop at the end or something, and by the time we got there, there was no chance that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so you guys were messing around one day and joking about going on a little paddle. Please explain how exactly that conversation happened, Joe. I need to understand how that, like, essentially sounds like pub banter, ended up in a world record.
To be honest, I can't remember it fully, but I think the story goes, I suggested doing a long paddle, maybe up to 100 kilometers, because we did one last year and it was quite fun. And then Brindy was like, oh, we could do the 200 kilometers Thames record, why not? And shockingly, I didn't say no.
And so you guys picked a day and you got in a racing kayak and you guys kind of set off. And were you guys aware of how fast you needed to go for it to be the record? Because didn't you beat it by like well over an hour, the previous mark, Brindy?
Yeah, so we were very aware of how quick the previous record was, and I think we were really lucky that we had good conditions for it. So we had the river has been in flood for quite a long time over this winter. It's kind of rained non-stop. You know, as South Africans think of the UK as the place that's dangerously, but it's been I think by the end of February there'd been almost no days without rain for the entire year in certain parts of the country. So it was really even more rain than we always picture it.
Yeah.
So it meant that the river was moving really fast, which helped us. We had projected that if we're able to hold the kind of pace that we do when we do our training paddles, that we should be able to be under the record, but we hadn't predicted that we'd be under it by as much as we were in the end.
Also kind of epic, forgive me if this is total ignorance here, but you took the record away from people who were 2 men, and the people before them were 2 men also. And I think in an endurance physicality sport, it must have been quite unusual for a lot of people to go combo of a man. Listen, I know enough from running to know that if people go long enough, women are actually much better than men are. I assume that's also in paddling, also is like endurance level races. But from a pure physique perspective, this is pretty boundary breaking as far as I can tell. A woman and man combo pulling off this extraordinary feat.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel it's like, oh, it's boundary breaking. But I think there's a bit of a trend recently in ultra kayaking where we've had quite a few women and mixed combinations of a man and a woman do really well, and that's really cool to be a part of. I think some of the women that I saw doing really well when I started getting interested in doing this long stuff, people that I really admire, because I think that it's really impressive that they're so tough and so brave. So it's been really fun to be a part of that. And it does seem like as you get into the really longer stuff, women just don't go bang the way men do. They just seem to be able to keep going better.
That's amazing. Joe, please tell me about the experience of paddling for, was it 14 hours and 3 minutes, something like that? What is that? That sounds mad, my guy.
It's really strange. I almost can't picture it in kind of like a complete thing, but you go through highs and lows, and there are obviously landmarks along Thames. Like we went through Oxford, which is where Brindy lives. Like I said pretty early on, about 5 hours in, and that was like a real high point. We were seeing loads of people new.
People waving and that.
Really well. Yeah, Brindy's club were out on the water cheering us on, which was really cool.
Did they drop off like a food packs or like an energy, like a little energy drink, or were you guys?
Yeah, they did. We had a like a WhatsApp group going with all our friends, and they were all arranging like meeting us along the route and giving us food and stuff like that, which is really cool. And then it kind of settled down for a while, and I think both of us were like, actually, this is a really long way, and we've done loads of paddling, and we've still got to do loads of paddling. So kind of trying to manage that like mental load was the hardest part. And at that point, we knew we were like well under record pace, so it was just kind of like settling down and just trying to get accustomed to getting through it. And then I personally, towards the end, really picked up. More people started to see us again when we came into that where I live near London, and that was like a real lift for me. I think Brindy was the same, like kind of seeing everyone really boosted us.
How is it? Is it like a physical battle in that you're trying to make sure you don't injure yourself? Like the sheer load over such a long period of time, you don't want to pull a muscle in an arm or something. I've obviously heard from Brindy that kayaking is also a pretty full body activity because you're priming your body to pull against the water the whole way through. So how much of it is physical, like I don't want to injure myself, and how much of it is mental, like I need to like have another stroke again and again and again forever, Brindy?
Oh, I think it's a bit of both, and it's kind of hard to tell which is more which is the stronger force going on. There were times when I felt like I was really battling with my head to like make myself keep taking another stroke. My shoulders were in a lot of pain, and so I just felt like I just didn't want to. I wanted to like rest, and then I had to keep thinking to myself like keep going. And so I can't tell if that's physical, where you're thinking about the pain and like focusing on how difficult it is, because it's also you notice that more when you're thinking about how long there is still to go, or how much of that is just like actually the physical pain is getting to be too much. Someone told me once that there's no like actual physical cliff when you're doing these kind of ultra endurance things. Like there isn't one point where like your body like completely falls apart and you have to stop. It's kind of more of a decay over time, and so that means that I'm always kind of feeling like, well, I should be able to keep going, and I should be able to push a little bit harder, put in a little bit more, even when there are times when like all I wanted to do was stop, to be honest.
So funny. You know what that reminded me of, Brindy? Okay, Joe, I'm going to explain this to you, but most South Africans will know this. So there's an indigenous tribal people in Southern Africa called the San, and their traditional hunting practice is to run after deer or like buck antelope for sometimes days, waiting for the buck to overheat and collapse from running away. So they don't actually have to smite the thing, they just keep going. And I've always thought of that as the great example of humans' natural physical ability to just not stop in ways that other animal species can't. It sounds a little bit like that here, but also deeply social, right? So like you guys were feeling emotional pickups whenever you saw supporters. I saw the beautiful pictures at the end. You guys came in, there were people with fireworks. It must have felt so good, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think we discussed it afterwards, and like our highest moments were when we were talking to each other. There were like long periods of silence, but then like lots of times when we were chatting away and having good conversations. And actually, then it was always hard not to get carried away and like try not to push too hard, because your mind is off of how like long it's going to take and how hard you're trying, and like the next stroke isn't what you're thinking about. You're thinking about what you're saying and the view you're going to see, which is like a really good coping mechanism. And
did people realize when you guys finished that what you really needed was the bathroom? Like were people conscious enough of that after a whole day?
I don't know how much detail I want to go into. They could probably smell that we didn't need to go to the loo.
That's so funny. And tell me about the physical. Is it like blisters and sore, achy muscles or anything, Brindy?
Yeah, a little bit. So when I finish these kinds of really long things, it feels like my whole body kind of hunches over. It's really hard to like get into a bath. Moving around is quite bad. But I was finding that from this I eased up quite quickly. So by the next morning, I had to support my one arm to pick it up, but now I can do it without any help. So it all came back quite quickly. There were some blisters, but blisters are kind of normal. You get them so much from training that they're not that bad. Anything else? Yeah, sometimes the aches can stick around, but